pearl and inside to the New Jerusalem. That's where we're going to be for 7 years. Now listen. While we are in heaven for 7 years, all hell is breaking out on the earth as the Antichrist has been given the authority to turn the world into hell on earth. We've just covered 7 years, and now Jesus is getting ready to come back the second time. The rapture is not the second coming. The second coming is when he comes. In Revelation 19:7, John said, "And I saw the heavens open, and he that sat upon a white horse was called Faithful and True. And out of his mouth goeth a two-edged sword, with which he shall smite the nations. Then he shall put his foot on the Mount of Olives. It will split in half. He will walk across the Kidron Valley, through the Messiah's gate, on to the Temple Mount. And there he will set up the throne of his father David, and he will rule forever and forever. And of his kingdom there shall be no end." Hallelujah to the Lamb of God. Jesus said, "When this gospel is preached to all of the earth, then shall the end come." You are watching prophecy being fulfilled every Sunday when you come to Cornerstone Church. Through those 6 cameras, right there in the balcony, they're carrying this message to every nation on the face of the earth that can receive a television signal. We are preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ to the ends of the earth every time we walk in this building. Must be wiped off the map. He also said that America was going to be exterminated. He is now talking about a world without Jews. He's now saying, or has said for months, that the Holocaust never happened, yet he's planning a second Holocaust for the Jewish people in Israel. He's the new Hitler of the Middle East, and he must be taken seriously. I want you to know I think he'll try that. I have this flash news bulletin from the New Jerusalem. Whenever Pharaoh threatened the Jewish people, God turned him to fish food in a very short period of time. You may threaten Israel, but you will never defeat Israel. The God of heaven will defeat you. Years ago, during his first administration, Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, sat in my office, and we talked for an extended period of time as he was telling me that Russian scientists were helping Iran develop long-range missiles that could reach London, Jerusalem, and New York. It wasn't the fact that they didn't have missiles that would blow up, it was that they didn't have a system that could bring it down where they wanted the missile to land. So let's consider the dots. Russia and Iran have been together now for almost 20 years, putting nuclear weapons and missiles together. Iran is the command post for global Islamic terror. Iran has made it clear to the world that they intend to become nuclear, and they will. The Bible clearly states that heaven and earth shall pass away. The world as we know it is going to end. How will it end? Where will it end? What are the signs? Right now I'm telling you. If you listen closely, you can hear the thundering hoofbeats of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse racing toward Armageddon to capture the oil of the world, the hook that's in their jaw. Make no mistake about it. God is in absolute control, because he said, "I saw the end from the beginning. I knew on creation morning this was going to happen." Did you ever think about this? You know how long it takes to make oil in the bowels of the earth? Thousands of years. All those dinosaurs have to die, then they have to be buried by dirt, and then some guy has to punch a hole in the ground to get it out. God, thousands of years ago, said that's where it is, and that's where it's going to happen. And now, it's just like the Lord said. But the first time he came, Jesus came as a baby in Bethlehem's manger, surrounded by sheep and donkeys. The next time he comes, he's going to come surrounded by angels. And he's coming back not as a rabbi and not as a teacher, but as the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. The first time he came, he rode into Jerusalem on a donkey. The next time he comes, John the Revelator says in the 19th chapter, he'll be riding a milk-white stallion. And the thousands of Christians who went to heaven and all of the angelic corps will be right behind him, thundering to the battlefield to proclaim victory for the house of Israel on that day. The first time he came, he was the Lamb of God to take away the sins of the world, as a lamb that went to the slaughter that opened not his mouth. The next time he comes in the book of Revelation, he will come as the Lion of the tribe of Judah, and all of the world shall see him and fear, and he will rule with a rod of iron. What does that mean? That means he's going to make the ungodly do what he wants them to do. He will not ask the ACLU if we can hang the Ten Commandments in the schoolhouse or pray in the name of God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. He will do his pleasure. Give him praise in the house of God. The first time he came, he was dragged before Pilate and Herod with spittle in his face, a crown of thorns on his head. He was a criminal covered with shame. But the next time he comes, Herod will be dragged before him. Pilate will be dragged before him. Adolf Hitler, the anti-Semite of the ages, will be dragged before the carpenter's son. And they will bow and confess that he is the Lord, to the glory of God the Father. That's going to happen. It will be God's pleasure. The first time he came, he was nailed to an old rugged cross, and he bled and died for you, for you, for you, for you, and for me. Precious blood made it possible for you to be sons and daughters of the Most High God. But the next time he puts his foot on the Mount of Olives, he will walk across the Kidron Valley and set up his kingdom. And he shall rule forever and forever. Listen to this phrase. And of his kingdom there shall never be an end. I'm going to be a part of that kingdom. You are going to be a part of that kingdom. We're coming back after 7 years of absence to rule and to reign with Jesus Christ. Lord, I can hardly wait for the opportunity. Happy day, happy day. Let me close with this theological point of view that creates just a 3.5-year difference in the telling of the story. There are people who believe that the Gog-Magog war of Ezekiel 38-39 could happen anytime. Now, I'll tell you, when you watch television, they've got a good argument because all the nations are ready to go. Russia is the commander of Iran, which is Persia. All of those armies that Ezekiel said, they're together now. Turkey has just turned in the past 12 months to become Islamic and against Israel. But there is a verse written by the prophets that say that whenever Russia considers going against Israel, they'll go against the land of unwalled villages. That phrase, unwalled villages. Now, we know that Israel has a mighty military, and in the Old Testament, walls represent your military capacity to defend yourself. If you had a weak wall, you had no military defense. If you had a thick wall like the Babylonians that could raise 5 chariots on the top of that wall, you were unconquerable. But